Welcome to part 2 of my how to draw a baby sloth tutorial. In this tutorial you'll learn how to paint your baby sloth. For painting your baby sloth you'll need a very thin brush and a thicker brush, watercolour paint, a palette and tissue. Here I'm showing you how to twist your wet brush on the tissue to get a very fine point. Now you can see I've mixed 3 different colours. I'm going to start with the dark one. This is a grey browny black, and I'm going to begin by working that dark colour into the deep shadows in the fur. You can see here these pointy bits that we drew in tutorial 1. We're now going to shade in, but with dark watercolour, especially those pointy shadows under the chin. Remember, there was a very deep shadow in between the arm and the body. In tutorial 1 we talked about how to draw around the shape of the shadow, and now we're shading it in. The next steps are these spiky pieces of fur. We're not going to shade in them, we're going to shade around them, because those spiky pieces of fur, like this one here, is actually light. And we're going to bring it out by doing the shadow in dark around it. As I go, I'm carrying on doing the same kind of thing, either working in the shadows or working around the light bits of fur. Working with the next colour up, so not as dark as before, this is the reddy brown. I'm going to now work with the direction of the fur in short, sharp strokes around the dark areas that I put in just now. You can see that I'm going with the direction of the fur, trying to capture the baby sloth's rough fur. As you work, of course, be aware of rubbing your hand over the already wet areas. Watercolour does dry pretty quickly, but you do need to be aware of when it's wet and you may smudge it. Now I'm working with the lightest colour and the fattest brush. And some areas I've really watered that colour down, where I can see sunlight maybe reflecting off the fur and the fur sort of shining brighter to bring out the highlights. Under the chin, of course, we're using a much darker shade. Having worked in the 3 midtones, I've added black to my darkest colour to really hit those deepest colours and put them in to bring some depth and contrast to the fur. I'm still working in the direction that the fur is growing to make sure to show how the fur looks, its texture. We're now going to use the lightest tone, again with mixing in water here and there to lighten it even more, to do a shade, a general wash over the face and the arm that comes across the face. This will give a background base that we can then work in the details of the fur and any darker or lighter areas. Also picking out the claws and paws. And now bringing in some middle shades and just really working in more and more contrast as we go. Using dark brown and black and the fine paintbrush, begin to add the details to the eyes. Remember that if things go wrong, watercolour is great because you can always correct things later with a sort of very wet brush and a tissue. So here, for example, too much paint came off and the eye ended up becoming blotchy. Later I'll show you how you can adapt it and improve it. You could use here, for these sort of fine details, a 0.3 or 0.5 fine liner pen. If you're a bit nervous at using the brush for these details, the pen might be a better option. Let's have a go sorting this eye out a little bit. The eye had too much black paint on it, so with a damp but not sopping wet brush, I'm gently wiping over the eye with the brush and then dabbing it with the tissue to lighten up that paint. If too much paint is applied, this is a good way to bring it back and take some of it off. You must be patient and wait for it to dry before you then try to work in again and improve the error. Now adding some more contrast to the mouth using a dark blacky brown and the tissue again to dab off any excess paint where we need it. Now with the middle brown, we're going to start adding the details of the darker areas of fur. Again, the very thin brush is the key to this, and working using the very tip of it. You can quickly build up layers with the different colours, the different lighter browns, and the tip of the brush in short, sharp strokes that are curved outwards to build up the appearance of fur. A really nice way to bring everything together is to give the whole thing a gentle wash with just clear water and a fat brush. It kind of tones all the sharp lines down and blends things together. Once you've done that, you can then work on adding any other layers of contrast and any further bits of details. Here, just behind the paw, I'm darkening the face so that the paw stands out and looks like it's in front of the face. Now adding just the little details to the face and the darker areas that make sloths look so slothish. This is also a great thing to do, especially for baby animals. Using a dry, fluffy-edged brush, just fuzz the edges so that you haven't got sharp edges there. This is a final optional trick if you like. Using just a simple white fine liner or gel pen, you can highlight extra areas on the fur to bring them out. Some people like this look, some people don't, but it gives you the option here. You can also work in on the highlights of the eyes. Again, you can see that left eye of the sloth is still giving problems. I'll show you how to use the thin brush to just correct it again. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like and subscribe to this channel, or you can follow me on Instagram at Nash Henkel Art.